All right, everybody, welcome aboard. Michael Cohen here with you on another Jets recap as they find a way to get a huge win. Thanks in big part to Breece Hall and his Jets defense. Well, folks, let me tell you something. That was not easy. I mean, I'm not going to say it was an ugly win, but man, that was hard. That was a hard one to sit through because for a better part of that contest between the Jets and the Denver Broncos, it was not looking good for Gangrene at all. They were down 13-8. You had so many mistakes in the first half of the game, really just on penalties. That really seemed to kill the Jets early on. You also had fumbles. You saw the Denver Broncos gouging the Jets for some big runs as Jaleel McLaughlin was having his way in the first half. Russell Wilson was having his way in the first half, even running the football. The Jets couldn't tackle anybody. Everything was going wrong for the Jets in that first half, and then it was all encapsulated there towards the end of the first half with the Jets having a chance to kick a field goal, get to within 2 points at 13-11. But instead, Zach Wilson decides to throw the football basically in the middle of the field to Tyler Conklin. The Jets seem unaware of the situation, unaware of that the clock is ticking with 14 seconds and counting. And then by the time the Jets get to the line, don't even hurry to the line, the clock runs out and it's 0-0. It's 13-8 going into the half. And I'm thinking to myself, and I think a lot of people are thinking to themselves, what the heck is going on here? Because in that first half, we saw Zach Wilson skittish on his feet again, as we saw in that Dallas game a couple weeks ago. So the offensive line was atrocious. We all obviously Elijah Vera Tucker leaving the game in the first half with an injury. They're going to look at it more on Monday to see what the severity is of that injury. Hopefully it's not too bad, but they didn't seem too optimistic. The first half was a mess in so many different ways. Like I said, offensive line was not that great. There wasn't too much emphasis on running the football in that first half. The defense couldn't get tackles. There were bad penalties all over the place on the Jets. They, in fact, had more penalties in the first half than they've had in some cases in entire games so far this year. Yet there they were at 13-8 going into halftime, and it all turned around because why? Because the Jets decided to do what they do best, and it's focused on their strength, and that is making sure they can pound the rock. I've been praying for this team to do it all season. Pound the rock, run the football, get Breece Hall more involved, get Michael Carter more involved, get Dalvin Cook more involved, get these guys involved. And Breece Hall had easily the game of his life. He really did. 72 yards on the first play scrimmage for the Jets in the third quarter, coast to coast for a touchdown, and swings the Jets back out in front 15-13 and just changes the complexion of the entire game. And Breece, as we also had one of the best games of his career, 177 yards, 22 carries. The Jets said they were going to let him loose, and thankfully they did, especially in that second half. It was a joy to watch him just chew up yards and chew up clock, and the Jets really just take total momentum in that ball game. And really the Jets defense kind of fed off of that as well, because the defense stiffened, held the Denver Broncos on their first 5 possessions of that second half to 4 punts and a fumble that resulted in a Jet field goal, in fact, that made it a 21-13 game. But that was really the key, folks, was running the football, getting the football out of Zach Wilson's hands. There's no reason, I mentioned this last week, no reason whatsoever for Zach Wilson to throw the football 40 times in a game. He ended up throwing it 26 times by the end of the day, but that first half there was too much focus on trying to make plays through the air, and it just was not working out for the Jets as their offensive line just couldn't make protections. And as we said, Zach Wilson looked skittish in that first half. So applaud the Jets for changing things up and focusing on the ground game in that second half, because it changed the entire game. Also, I would be remiss not to mention, think about this for a second. Think about the storyline here for Breece Hall. 177 yards rushing in this game. This guy got injured in Denver at this point last year with an ACL injury and missed the entire season, rest of last year. And the work and the effort it took for him to get back, not just for this game, but also just to get back for training camp this year. The amount of time and the amount of effort it took for this guy to come back from an ACL injury, not easy to come back from that, and the Jets let him loose. And they said they were going to let him loose, and they did that in this game. That had to be sweet for him and sweet for that team to watch him basically have a revenge game in Denver against this team. But of course, this game was not without drama, folks. It was not without drama. That ending, I think it put some gray hair in my. I think that ending put some gray hair in my head. I'll be completely honest with you. It really put some gray hairs on my head. I mean, first of all, you have. If it wasn't bad enough that the game starts with a obvious face mask penalty that was not called on the Broncos, where they get the sack of Zach Wilson. It appeared that Nick Bonanito put his hand into the face mask of Zach Wilson, and they didn't call it. That was bad enough as it is. But then you have two things happen on that drive for the Jets in the fourth quarter. One, you have, I got to give Wilson credit here for stepping up in the pocket, rolling out, and then hitting Conklin on a huge third down that turned into a 37-yard gain. That was huge. But that all got erased not too long after that when the Jets were in their 4-minute offense, and Zach Wilson throws an interception to Patrick Surtain II. Now, that play looked like there was a hold on Surtain. In fact, look, both he and Garrett Wilson were kind of going at it a little bit on that play, but it looked like a hold on Surtain, and of course, I'm just thinking back to what happened last week with Kansas City. I'm like, please, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me, right? The Jets are going to... At this point, they're up 3 points. They're going to find a way to lose this game because of another bad non-call, if you will, on a potential pass interference. You got to be kidding me. But that defense stepped up, man. That defense stepped up. I mean, Quincy Williams, this guy was the man last year for the Jets on that defense, and he was the man again. There's things about this Jets team that you like over the last couple of years. They have guys that know how to end it. And I have guys who are their home run hitters, right? Whether it's Breece Hall, whether it's Garrett Wilson. I still think Michael Carter can be that guy, but they got to give him the football more. And then on the defensive side, it's Quinnen Williams, it's Sauce Gardner, and it's Quincy Williams. And Quincy Williams was outrageously good at the end of that game. I mean, you get one sack of Russell Wilson there on a huge second down that puts Denver in kind of a panic mode, and then you get the knockout punch. You sack Russell Wilson, that is, and you get the strip sack fumble, and then the pickup by Breece Hall, who goes coast to coast for a touchdown. I don't think I've screamed louder in my life as that ball gets picked up by Hall, going all the way into the end zone for the touchdown. Oh, I mean, let's be honest. They saved their season doing that, guys. They really did. They saved their season with that game. They really saved their season with that game. That was unbelievable. Because if the Jets had lost this game, dropped to 1-4, I'm sorry, but any chances of postseason hopes would have been over, as they flashed a statistic on CBS. I think it was like 6% chance of teams getting to the playoffs if you're 1-4. Yeah, that was huge. That was a huge win. And now the Jets, of course, get the Philadelphia Eagles this next week. That's going to be tough enough as it is. You know, not only is Philadelphia the NFC champions, they're 5-0, and of course the Jets have never beaten the Eagles in the regular season head-to-head, so who knows, maybe something will change next week, but that's the kind of game we want to see from the Jets. In the Aaron Rodgers-less Jets, this is what you want to see. Pound the rock with those guys that can gash these defenses and make the short, precise throws with Zach Wilson after you're getting all that momentum on the ground, and play incredible defense. And that's what the Jets did in this game. Also, you got to give the credit to special teams because they made some plays happen as well. They got a fumble recovery and a punt return that helped lead to a field goal. Of course, Greg Zuerlein had a great game as well for Gang Green. So all that came to play in this one for New York. And there you go. A win is a win. Not pretty at all, but one that certainly keeps the Jets alive and keeps their season going right now as they are at 2-3. Can't say the same for the Giants, though, who are sitting at 1-4. Daniel Jones is getting smacked around all over the place. He's 6 more sacks today. Daniel Jones, he's going for an MRI for the Giants on Monday with a neck injury. He's been sacked 16 times. The Giants are 1-4. They play the Bills this week. The Giants look like they are toast at 1-4. Toast. That's the difference between 1-4 and 2-3. And that's how big this win was for New York, for the New York Jets. on Sunday in Denver. Also, I would be remiss not to mention, of course, Nathaniel Hackett. The Jets been on this whole thing since August about we're going to win this for Hackett. We're going to win this for Hackett after Sean Payton threw him under the bus for the coaching job that he did in Denver last year. And you have to feel good for him because this was this was in a lot of ways a little bit of justification, a little bit of revenge for him, because to come back into Denver and to have the ability for the Jets to put up 31 points. And, of course, a lot of that has to do with running game. Can't sit here and say Zach Wilson was throwing darts over the place. He wasn't. It wasn't easy to watch. But to come out and to be the offensive coordinator on a team that put up 31 points on his old team against the team and a coach that threw him under the bus in Sean Payton, that had to feel good for Nathaniel Hackett. It had to feel good for the Jets. They were all hugging him on the sideline towards the end of the game. That's a good flight home for the New York Jets this week. Enjoy this one, folks. Leave your thoughts below. We'll talk to you next time.